Stop, quit scrolling, and let's read some of the Bible today. Welcome to Bible Study with me. Hey! Today, you guys, we are going to be talking about delusionizing fantasies, being delusional. And I'm actually making a full episode to this on my podcast, Save Not Soft, and I'm calling it Crucify Your Fantasies. So if you want to listen to the whole hour message, it is now up on my podcast. But this message is so important that I wanted to come on here and make a separate video telling you guys how fantasy can actually ruin our perception towards God's goodness. We first have to assess what a fantasy is. And as a woman, I like to fantasize. I will see a guy for the first time and I'm already thinking of my wedding dress. I'm thinking of what our kids look like, what car we gonna drive. To fantasize something means to imagine things that are impossible or improbable, meaning that it doesn't really align with scripture whatsoever. If fantasy is really, really popular, this is why you see industries like Marvel and Disney paint these fantasies, superheroes and characters that we just gravitate towards. And there's something so enchanting about fantasies. So when we're not watching a Disney movie, we will make one in our minds. We will fantasize this happily ever after in our minds. How we're actually setting ourselves up for failure in that way, though, is that it's probably not going to happen. And it's also probably not biblical whatsoever. The Bible actually talks about fantasies, and it says in Proverbs 12:11, those who work their lands will have abundant food, but those who chase fantasies have no sense. This is why successful people will tell you that you need to put in the work. You need to be in the area, in the path, to reach the goal that you want. You just can't be in your room, sit around fantasizing for a job or aspiration when you're not even in a path to step into that calling or whatever it may be. Fantasies are desires, and it is a part of our human nature to desire things. Those desires, though, can easily become corrupted when we self-indulge in them and idolize them. James 1:14-15, and this is a crazy verse, says, "But each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. Then desire, when it has conceived, gives birth to sin. And sin, when it is fully grown, brings forth death." So basically, your fantasy is the embryo to your sinful baby. And you start to see that there's this process with how fantasy plays a huge factor into why you ultimately sin. This is why the more you think about something and the more you desire it, the more you end up actually going forth with it. Let's just take this for an example. Say you got a lust problem right now, and say you're entertaining your lust behind the scenes in your room by yourself, doing things you're not supposed to do whatsoever. So when a tasty man comes your way, of course it's going to be easy for you to indulge in it because you've already been entertaining the desire, which now is your gateway to the sin. And it's so important that we address these fantasies because your fantasies are entertaining your sin. And that's the part of you that you need to die to. In no way am I saying that imagination and creativity is off the table. By no means. God had an imagination, and because he is our creator, he was creative and made us. But God did not fantasize about us. Imagine if God were to just fantasize us and be like, dang, it would be nice to have a creation. Anyways, God didn't do that. Fantasizing is just thinking with no action. And just imagine how efficient your walk with Christ would be and how interrupted your season would be if you just shut up that part in your mind that likes to fantasize and indulge in things that are not biblical and not a part of your calling. But yet we do them because we have a deeper desire, and that's to be loved. It's to be seen, to be heard, and we have to remember that Christ overrules every and anything that is attached to this world. No object, no person can satisfy us. And God is not a fantasy. God is the way, the truth, and the light. And I promise you that the satisfaction of the Lord overrules every single fantasy that you have ever had. Get into your word, see what God has to say about this. I'm doing a deeper dive about this whole topic on my podcast, but just know that through the authority of Christ, that we can take every thought captive and make it obedient to Christ. How dare we live and indulge in a fantasy when we are in a reality of the goodness of God? I love you guys, and I'll be seeing you soon. Bye.